I like to make my little talks a little bit more interactive to put some pressure back on all of you. For those of you who've seen me speak before, you probably know that. But I do give prizes, because I'm very generous. So my first question of you is a knowledge-based question, which is, does anybody know, because I'm assuming there's some marketing and advertising people in the room, how much money was spent on advertising in Vietnam in 2016? And the prize goes to the nearest correct answer. You can shout it out. Anybody have an idea in US dollars how much money was spent on advertising? Please go ahead, sir. 12.3 billion US dollars. There's a lot of people in this room who wish so. ASCII? 2.4 billion. Anyone else? Any other numbers? 200 million? 1.2? 800 million? There's some Group M people in the house. Why are they not talking? Who said that? Half what? $500,000? No. ASCII, you've got the closest answer. The answer was actually 2 billion. I'd like to send this to you, but can I give it to your colleague? So maybe Tway can give it to you later. Congratulations, sir. So let's just have a look at an update. On the left, we have 2005. On the right, we now have 2016. Okay, and this is just giving us a quick summary of what's gone on in the marketplace. So, back in 2005, we had 1.6 million households who earned more than $500 a month. Today, 10 years later, we have 3.4 million. We had $2 billion spent last year on advertising, up from 280 million 11 years back. GDP per capita is now at just over 2,000 US dollars per head in Vietnam. The population's 91 million, the economy's tripled in size, and we now have an urban population of 34%. What's interesting, over the last 11 years, the rural population has hardly increased at all. That doesn't mean they stopped having babies. They still have power cuts, they still have babies. What it does mean is that there's a huge growth in the urban population as a lot of people have migrated to urban areas, or the urban areas have taken in rural districts. So you see 40% growth in the urban population, which is quite staggering, but it's also a global trend. One of the things I would like to highlight to you, and here's another question for you, what is the average age of a Vietnamese person in this country? Average age of a Vietnamese? 33, 35, who said 31? You win, sir. Again, you're way too far for me to reach you with your prize. I'm gonna trust people to send it back to you. Could you pass that behind and keep sending it back to that gentleman up there? Vietnam, a lot of you think, oh, it's a young population. The global average age is 30. In Vietnam, it's 31 as of 2016. So we are no longer such a young population, and it is changing. You can see young singles today in 2016, which is about, here is 37 million. What I want to quickly get down to, because you can read those numbers, is the growth in the older end of the population, okay? So those people who are empty nesters, that means their children have now left home. They've gone off to university, has increased 64% to 7.5 million, and by 2025 on the far right, that's going to be up to 14 million. Now that is a big demographic shift that's taking place and presents interesting opportunities for a lot of companies. And the old singles is grown 75% in the last 11 years, and it will reach 16 million. If you look ahead to 2025, that's over 42 million of the population in that much older segment where their youngest child is already above 10 years old. So a changing demographic like that has a big impact on the purchase priorities of the household. For those of you with young children, think how much money you spend on the little buggers, right? As they get older and they start to leave home, you spend less money, giving you money to spend on other items. So it presents some new, interesting opportunities. We still have a lot of young single people, and we still will have in 2025. But there is certainly a big shift taking place that we should be thinking of because it impacts purchase priorities. My next question, before I put the slide over. You all seen the Vin Marts, the Circle Ks, the Family Marts, and every other convenience store like that, right? How many are there in Vietnam is my next question. How many modern convenience stores do we have in Vietnam? Yes, sir. 2,000? Anything on 2,000? Say again, sir? 1,500. 1,870. Wrong question, but the answer of 2,000 was the closest. We'll get to the answer in a second, but it's 2,000 and something, I forget the exact number. So there is your prize, sir. I got the wrong question for the next slide, but anyway, look at this slide just to highlight. Globally, the population's getting more urban. In Vietnam, if we look at 2016, it's currently 34%. It will reach by 2025, 40%. So if you think you've got traffic problems getting to work today, look forward to your future, because by 2035, it's going to be up to 46%. I'm 47 years old. By 2035, I won't be in the minority anymore. 51% will be over the age of 40. That is the shift in the demographic that's taking place and that will start to impact a lot of businesses. Today, it's 35% or just over of the population are over the age of 40. And it starts to have a real kick in by 2025. 2035, it gets up to 51. You wouldn't want to be a young person at the early part of your career in 2050 because you are going to be supporting a lot of old people with silver hair. How many stores were there? 2,100. Your answer was 2,000, hence it was the closest. Modern trade back in 2005 represented 15% of all grocery sales. The big change that's happened is added 3% in 11 years. Not much of a change, right? Of course, in absolute terms, the value has improved, but as a percentage of sales, it is still largely a traditional trade market, which of course impacts a lot of what many of you do. It does vary slightly by category. Personal care would be higher. Beverages would be lower. E-commerce, long ago, back in 2005, was scratch cards, courtesy of a man sat over there who used to work for Venagame and would sell scratch cards so kids could use them in the internet cafes. And that was a very profitable business. E-commerce today is largely unprofitable. If you look at Lazada, its recent sale, it never made any money. It was buying your custom by giving you cheap product, and it lost a lot of money. Back in 2005, 47 supermarkets to 1,000. 135 largely independent modern convenience stores. Now over 2,000, none of which make money. None of which make money still to this day. It's a land grab for a future earnings, perhaps valuation of bad money going to chase silly money. It's going to be a long time before these convenience stores actually turn a profit. The only money they get is from manufacturers paying for their products to be in those stores. The actual sales in those stores are not justifying their investments. The number one concern in Vietnam is my salary or my money, followed by, so therefore my job stability and my job opportunity, followed by the economy, so again related to money. Number three is health, has been for a very long time. We're seeing a lot of changes in the way people spend on health. They've spent in 2015 $2.1 billion going overseas for healthcare. We're seeing a development, a lot of pharmacy chains, and there's more coming. Some of you probably are aware of the ones that are coming, but there's some big ones about to enter the market. Branded gyms are increasing, beauty care shops in a modern environment also increasing. I don't always agree with Ralph. I agree with him on many things, but I don't agree that pharmaceutical is going to go into decline. Pharmaceutical and healthcare, I believe, is going to be a massive growth area. It's okay. It's good that we disagree sometimes. Do you remember? I mean, listen, if you're sort of my age and Vietnamese, do you remember when the Honda Spacey came out and people were spending $1,000 on a Honda Spacey? I think that was before 2005. But a lot of consumption has always been conspicuous, right? I remember when people had a Spacey and you'd go to their homes and you'd think, wow, you spent all that money on a Spacey, but this is your home? very basic furnishings, very basic equipment in the home. And what mattered was that people could see. It was conspicuous consumption, and today that's being driven by mobile phones. We have nearly 1,500 stores that are modern trade type stores selling mobile phones today. Interestingly, we have, in each of those stores, we have multiple people trying to give us consumer credit to buy a mobile phone at 0% interest. Why would they do that? Because they want your contact details so they can come back to you with a cash loan. Consumer finance is, as Ralph alluded to, is going through the roof. Can anyone guess how much consumer finance was provided last year? Give me a number for a prize. What was the value of consumer finance in Vietnam last year? 80 million? Anyone else? You got nothing to lose. Half a what? Half a billion. Anything else? 2 billion. Anything else? 11 billion. Who said that? You are the closest, but you're nowhere nearly there, but you'll still get a prize. It was 16 billion. And actually, that was 2015. So 2016 would be higher. That was 9% of the economic output of this country. Could you help me get this prize to that man in the blue shirt? Thank you very much. Other interesting things that we all like to talk about, apartment sales. Back then, 6,000, nearly 60,000 last year. 60,000 apartments sold last year. I always wonder, what are people going to do with their parents in 15 years' time when they need looking after? Because they can't fit in those apartments. Or is that why people move into apartments? 179,000 new cars were sold, passenger cars. There were more vehicles sold, but passenger cars were sold last year. 3 million motorbikes. That's 8,000 new motorbikes every day and nearly 500 cars every day, improving the traffic conditions that we have. And that number is staggering, 16 billion. It looks staggering, 9% of GDP in consumer finance. In fact, if you compare that number to other countries in the region, it is not high. What is staggering about it is the rate of growth that consumer finance companies are achieving in the market, because people are taking the finance so they can keep up with their conspicuous consumption. We all love to talk about internet and mobile. Yes, penetration is now at 54%. Mobile usage has increased. Smartphone usage, driven by that 0% financing. You walk into any mobile phone store, you'll be attacked almost by one of 3, 4, maybe 5 finance companies offering 0%. So that's really driven the growth of smartphones. Hence, we're seeing, if you look at the number of pages that are from the internet that are viewed, now 1/3 of those pages are viewed on a mobile phone. And video on mobile is becoming extraordinarily popular also. The convergence of video and mobile is presenting a lot of you media agency people in the room some great opportunities. And finally, I just want to highlight the fact of experience. So we came from an era back in 2005 where we wanted to own stuff. We wanted new stuff for the home, a new motorbike. Increasingly, what the Vietnamese are looking for is the satisfaction that can be derived from new experiences. Whether that's learning a new language, learning to paint, traveling overseas, which is why I include the numbers that are on the screen. But personal fulfillment through experience is becoming the new must-have. And the social validation that you can achieve with that through social media is also, of course, extremely important, as you will notice that as soon as someone does something, generally they're sharing it with their group of friends on Zalo, or they're sharing it on Facebook. It's experience leading into validation. That's outbound tourism, those numbers. Inbound tourism has improved quite dramatically, but if you speak to anyone in the hotel industry, they never smile. And the reason they don't smile so much is because despite the numbers increasing, the sources, the origin of those tourists, changing quite dramatically to our northern neighbors in China and in South Korea. Their spend tends to be slightly less per tourist than the tourism that used to come here 10 years ago. But still, tourism is a big opportunity in the market. I think that's my 8 minutes. So this is my wrap-up. High income households has doubled in size over the last 11 years. The economy tripled. Life stages are maturing, household structures are changing, less kids, money available for other things. Also going to start bringing in social consequences as people get older and they need services such as healthcare that aren't necessarily available or top-notch. New retail, there's a lot of it, and a lot of it's chasing, a lot of it's irrational. In fact, if I was a family store owner, I'd consider it unfair competition. It is, because it's being financed by large money and investment. It's not actually profitable enterprise. Coffee, beer, and fast service chains, you've seen them all. Students put into the US economy last year in education. That's staggering. Think what we could do with that money if it was spent on education locally. Self-expression through social media, Zalo, instant messaging, Facebook being huge. Mobile's driving the internet penetration. Mobile's driving the page views. Mobile and video and TV. The convergence is all very interesting, exciting. And experiences are key to fulfillment. Is that my time? That is my time. Thank you very much for listening. I believe questions are later.